So in the previous session, we have seen how to create a new thread by using the second way, that is by extending a thread class. So there is another alternative, right? For us, we can create a new thread by creating a class which implements runnable interface also. So you know that runnable interface is defined in lang package, so you need not import that package into your program. So let us see how this program is working. So I have created a class called new thread again here also, right? But this time instead of extending thread class, I'm implementing runnable interface. And in this class, what I'm doing is first I'm creating a reference variable for thread class, and then I'm creating a constructor for this new thread class. So this is reference variable, right? We are not creating an object. We are just creating a reference variable. It is not instantiated. No memory will be allocated. We'll instantiate it later in the constructor. So what I am doing is I'm instantiating the thread object t. So for this, what I am doing for the constructor, using the new keyword, I am instantiating it, and the constructor for the thread class is called. For this, we need to pass. There are multiple versions of the constructor. In the previous program, we have passed only one parameter for the constructor, right? So here you are passing two parameters here for the constructor. That means the constructor is overloaded. So constructor overloading. You can create as many constructors as you want in your class by changing the number of parameters. So we have seen the concept called overloading of constructors, or simply constructor overloading, right? So as such, this predefined class thread also has multiple constructors. That means the constructors of this thread class are overloaded. So this receives two parameters. First one is this keyword, and second one is the string parameter, which is nothing but the name of the thread that you want to create. So here also I'm giving the name as demo thread only. And the first parameter, that is this keyword. What is this referring to? It is referring to the thread object that we are creating. We didn't create that object yet, right? So that's why we are using this keyword here to refer to uh, this thread. So let me show you the main method in the next class, in the thread demo class. In the main method, I'm again calling the constructor here for new thread class, right? So whenever you call this constructor here by instantiating the new thread class, the new thread constructor will be invoked and a thread object is created. So this time, how you are creating a new thread? By creating a thread object directly by creating a thread class object, right? So we have created a reference variable here first, and then we are instantiating the thread reference variable t that we created here. Okay, so in this way, that is by implementing runnable interface, we have to create a new thread by creating a thread class object like directly like this. Earlier, what we have done, we are extending thread class. Because you are extending thread class, you need not create a thread object there, thread class object there, because thread class itself is a super class for the new thread class in that program. But here we are not extending thread class. That means we will not have all the methods that are part of the thread class, which will also become part of this new thread class, right? So that's why what we need to do, we need to create an object for the thread class here. Otherwise, we will not be able to call the start method, run method, and all these things. Sleep method, all these things, we will not be able to call them, right? There, because we are directly extending the thread class. So thread class itself will become the super class for our new thread class that we are creating in our program. So we need not create an object for the thread class there. But here, because we are not extending the thread class, we require an object. So that's why what we are doing is we are creating a thread class object here t, then we are instantiating it here. So when you are instantiating it, for the constructor you are passing this keyword and demo thread. So this keyword refers to whatever object you are with whatever object you are calling this new thread constructor. So the object that is created is here, right? So new thread object is created here. So this keyword here refers to that object. Then you are displaying a message system.out.println child thread concatenated with t object. T is nothing but thread. So when you give this way, what will be the output displayed here? It will be displayed like this. In the previous program also I mentioned to you. Within the square brackets, name of the thread. So here the name of the thread also is given here also as demo thread. Priority will be by default 5, and then thread group will be main. So this will be the output printed by the system.out.println. Then after printing this, we have to call the start method. So in the previous program, we have called the start method directly. Why? Because start method is also part of the new thread class, because new thread is a subclass for thread class. But here new thread is not a subclass for thread class, right? So you cannot call it directly. So you have to call using the thread object that we created first. So we have already created the thread object T here, right? So using the thread object, you have to call the start method. So to whichever thread object you have called, so that thread is represented as demo thread, right? So that thread will start, and the start method in turn will call run method. So just like we have overridden run method there in that program, here also we need to implement run method because we are implementing runnable interface. So even the runnable interface contains this run method. The actual thing is runnable interface is implemented by the thread class. Okay, so interface runnable has this run method. It's an abstract method declared in the interface runnable, and because thread class implements runnable interface, so thread class will have its own version of the run method, and we have overridden that run method in our program in the previous version. But now here, because we are implementing runnable interface, and this runnable interface will have only the abstract method run. So what we need to do, we need to give the implement run method implementation here. So that's why, because we are implementing the run method of the interface, we have to use public here, right? So then define the run method, and in the run method, in the same way as we have done in the previous version, we have to write the logic. Whatever task you want to assign for the thread, so that task you have to put it in a try block and catch mechanism. So this try block also uses the same task, and the for loop will iterate for 5 times and display the value of I by decreasing the value of I by 1 time after every iteration, and you're suspending the thread for half a second here by calling the sleep method, and finally you're exiting the thread child thread. And also in the main thread also you are using the same try block, try catch mechanism, and using the same for loop, and but you're suspending the thread for 1000 milliseconds as we have done in the previous version also. And finally you'll print this message main thread exiting. So only the difference is the way you are creating the thread is different here. In the previous version, what we have done is we have created a class which extends thread superclass. Right? Thread is a predefined class, and because thread class contains all the start method, run method, and all, we can call all those methods directly without an object. But here in this version, we are not creating a class which is a subclass for thread class. Instead, we are creating a class which will implement the runnable interface. Right? So what we need to do, we need to create a thread object which will represent our child thread. So how to do that? We need to create a reference variable first for the thread class. I'm creating t here, and in the constructor, what I'm doing is I'm instantiating that t thread object with the constructor, which receives two parameters. First one is this keyword, second one is the name of the thread, right? Then I'm displaying about the child thread information. I'm displaying its name, its priority, and its thread group. Then I'm making a call to start method, and from here, the rest everything will work similar to the previous version. Why I'm calling t dot start? Because uh, start method is not part of our class. It is not a member of our class. It is a member of thread class. So we require a thread object. So we have already created a thread object here in the previous statement. Now using that thread object, you just make a call to the start method. So the start method in turn will call this run method. So in the run method, you have written the logic for thread implementation. Whatever task you want to assign to the thread, so that task you put it inside the try block. That's it. So that is the only difference we made in this program. Instead of extending thread class, we are implementing runnable interface. Rest everything is same. So the difference you'll observe only by creating thread object and then in calling the start method. Rest everything is same. Is that okay? Understood?
Yes, sir.
See, if you have any doubt, you clarify it now itself. If you are having any little bit of
This, yeah, sir.
doubt in your mind, yeah.
This key can be the second statement in the bracket.
No, no, no. It must be the first one because
Oh,
thread is a predefined class, right? We don't define that class, and the constructors for thread class are as per its predefinition, right? So we cannot alter that parameters type. It is just like method parameters, right? So if the first parameter is integer and second parameter is double, we need to pass the values when you are calling that method in the same order. First must be integer, second must be double. We cannot call double first and int second, right? So in the same way, thread is not defined by us; it is already predefined. So the constructors of thread class are also predefined. So we cannot alter it. We have to follow the. It is mandatory.
okay, sir.
So this keyword is referring to whatever object we are creating for this new thread class,
Yeah,
right? So because we are writing this code even before writing this
the main.
main method
Yeah,
code, so we don't have a name to refer to that object. So that's why we are using the this keyword here, right?
okay, sir.
And when this new thread constructor is called, this will refer to that object, whichever object invokes this constructor. This keyword will refer to that object. So what is that object we are creating in the main method? Simply this one. So for your convenience, if you want, you can create this as like this, right? Then the thread, the object name is NT. So here, this keyword here, this will be replaced by object name
And
NT. Okay, but we
okay,
didn't write that code before this class is defined, right? So that's why
yeah,
we will refer to it as this. So you can write this way also. But why I'm not writing like this? I'm not using this one. Why? Because in my main method, nowhere I'm using this object NT to call any other methods. Right? I'm not
yeah,
using this object to call any other methods of the new thread class. It has only the constructor. So constructor will be automatically invoked when you create an object. So you need not use that object again to call it. And the run method we are not going to call. It is going to be called with the start method. Right.
okay,
So
sir.
the only thing we need to do is we need to call the start method. To call the start method, we require an object of thread class, not the object of new thread class. So that's why there is no purpose of creating a object like this. So and that's why we remove this and simply create instantiation of the thread directly. If at all, if we are using this empty object for another purpose within the try block somewhere here, if you are creating one more method in this program inside this new thread class other than run method and the constructor, if you are creating some other read method or display method or something else, and if you want to make a call to that method, then we require this object empty, and you can call using that empty object empty dot display empty dot read, like that you can call that method. So then and in that situation you can write this object creation this way, but in our program we are not going to call any other methods, right? So that's why
Yes,
I'm
got it.
removing this one.
Got it. So the only difference between threads like runnable and the regular one is we use like extends thread, and here we use implements runnable.
Yeah, implements runnable. And one
Um,
more thing is runnable interface is implemented by thread class also.
Okay.
Okay, just like we are implementing runnable interface in our program here by new thread class, even thread class is also implementing runnable interface. They are predefined. So their thread class will automatically implement runnable interface. That's why we were able to call the start method and run method there.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, it is like for your more understanding, I'll give you a say interface runnable is defined like this. Right, runnable interface will definition will be like this. So and class thread will be like this. Right. So the definition for interface runnable and thread will be like this. This is just assumption because they are predefined. We cannot completely say how it will look like. But for your understanding sake, I am saying runnable interface contains these abstract methods start and run, and they are implemented by thread class. So because thread class implements runnable, what we need to do, we need to give the definition for start method and run method in the thread class. So how to give the definition for abstract methods of an interface in a class that implements that interface using public keyword public and the return type void, name of the method is start. So as per our discussion, what is start method going to do? It is going to call run method, right? So how to call run method? So run method will be called like this. Then in the run method, what we'll have our own version, but we don't want to use this run method version. This is defined in the thread class. So what we'll do, we'll override the in our program. What we are doing is either we are creating subclass for this thread class, or we are directly implementing runnable interface, right? If you are creating a subclass for thread class, then these two methods, public start method and run method, will also be members of that class that we are creating there, right? So we can directly call start method and run method without an object there. That is what we have done in the previous version when we extended thread class, right? But when you are implementing runnable interface instead of extending thread class, the start method and run method will not have their own implementation, right? So what we need to do, we need to give their implementation. But anyhow, runnable interface will be implemented by thread class. So when you call the start method using the thread object, the start method that is part of the thread class will be executed. And because you are overriding run method in your program, and start method when it calls run method, the overridden method will be executed. So that is the reason why we are not defining start method, but we are defining run method in our program. See, we are defining run method, but we are not defining start method, right? Public void run is defined here. Because you are implementing runnable interface, you must also implement start method. But are we implementing the start method? We are not implementing the start method, right? But because that is implemented by the thread class, so we are not implementing start method here. Think sorry, this start method will not be defined in this runnable interface. Maybe only run method will be there. But because thread class has a start method and you are calling the start method with using the thread object, that method will
Yeah.
call the run method. Okay. So
Okay.
this is just for your understanding, I'm saying.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Mm, fine.
Yes, sir.
So uh, I think